Hey everybody, and welcome. Welcome to the broadcast. I'm Steve Farrell with Humanities Team, coming to you live from our Humanities Team studio here in Boulder, Colorado. As you can see, we have a very special guest today, very special theme. I'm going to properly introduce him here in a moment, but Gregg, welcome to the program.
Steve, it's so good to be with you and with our community today. This is a really, really important conversation. I'm excited. I can't wait to get started, and I'm going to follow your lead in terms of how we do that. So thank you for the opportunity to be with you and our community today.
Oh gosh, thank you for making the time to be with us, Gregg. Always such a privilege and pleasure. So, and I want just big shout out to Gregg's Facebook page, our Humanities Team Facebook pages, to John Raymer and the whole sign community. They're broadcasting out to their Facebook pages, to our Humanities Stream Plus members that are in the stream room so they can talk one-on-one with Gregg. So shout out to all of you. And now it's a live program. So as we always do, we are collecting your questions and comments here during the program. Right here in the studio, I can see they're bringing back from these pages your questions and comments. So the earlier you throw things at us, the better chance that I can bring them to Gregg here during the hour. This hour is going to go fast. It always does. So
it is, Steve.
So
I'm coming to you from a studio just outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico today. I have to tell you, it is a beautiful spring day. You're north of me in Colorado, so I trust you're having the same sunshine. Is that true?
Boy, absolutely. Yeah, we're both on the Rockies, and of course I'm Boulder, so I'm a little further north on the Rockies. You're the Southern Rockies, and in fact, I'm looking out the window. I've got to get you over to the house here sometime, Gregg. We're looking straight out at the Flatirons here. I can see it just looking out the window right now. It's gorgeous, blue sky. I don't see a cloud in the sky. So I hope it's as beautiful in your part of the world, viewers.
It's a perfect day in the high desert, and it's a perfect day to have this conversation.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So I mentioned special guest, which you can see, Gregg. Now, also a very special theme today. We're going to talk about redefining what it means to be human. So truly, that's what we're going to get to here. Very important program. Let me go ahead and give Gregg a proper introduction as we get started. So Gregg Braden is a 5-time New York Times bestselling author, scientist, international educator, and pioneer in the emerging paradigm bridging science, social policy, and human potential. Gregg's research and expertise ranges from archaeology to biology as he tells the new story of humanity and our potential. As an internationally respected thought leader, Gregg has presented his discoveries in over 34 countries on 6 continents and has been invited to speak to the United Nations, Fortune 500 companies, and the U.S. military. During our conversation today, we will also be sharing about a newly expanded video series called Smarter, Stronger, Faster, which Gregg has co-created with Humanities Team and fellow researchers and visionaries Bruce H. Lipton, PhD, and Lynn McTaggart. So again, welcome to the program, Gregg. Really looking forward to jumping into a great conversation with you.
Yeah, I am as well, Steve, and I think this conversation couldn't be more timely. And I'm honored to have the opportunity to work with Bruce Lipton, Lynn McTaggart, and many others to bring these discoveries to the forefront that are changing the way we've been taught to think about ourselves and our relationship to our bodies, our relationship to the world. The world is changing, and our story has to change, and this is a big part of it. So I'm really, really looking forward to the questions that we get from our audience as well.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, so viewers, great to have you with us. This is a big conversation. Looking forward to bringing you all in. So let me just share something as we get started. We're going to just go down into a lot of important topics. But as we get started, I want to just share something that you may know, that Gregg and I both come from Silicon Valley. In fact, we were there in the same time frame. Gregg with Cisco Systems, this routing, switching, internetworking platform organization. They're the leader in the field. I actually had a company that I started with another co-founder that was an integration company. Our biggest partner was Cisco Systems. So I was working with Cisco all over the place. I wasn't working with Gregg, though we were right there near each other. So I'm mentioning this because we have technology backgrounds, we come from technology, we are not anti-technology at all. But there's a huge technology and human capacities are coming together, and there are areas where we're going to urge caution, with technology. But I just wanted to start with that we're not some anti-technology, been living in the backwoods, meditating our whole life, and we don't know anything about technology. We're afraid of it. That I can assure you, that is not the case. So just that little preamble here as we get started. Now, Gregg, as you share, you like to come into this conversation I'm going to just use your term here, terms that you use as you frame the conversation. You say that there are these false beliefs that we are flawed as humans, and that we have there are things that we need to do to remedy our human bodies, our human selves, because we're flawed. So let's just start there. I mean, what a disaster that there is this thinking. And I know things like singularity, where people say, so since our bodies wear out, we're going to just drop ourselves into a machine, and our heart and lungs and face, and somehow we're immortal, if you want to call that immortal. I'd call that, awful. But, so let's start into this conversation. Why is there this false belief that we're somehow flawed, Gregg?
Yeah, Steve, thank you for that. So the whole conversation that we're going to have, it falls under the umbrella of a philosophy and a movement that began actually late in the 1800s, early 1900s, a philosophy that believes that the human body, by its very nature, is flawed, that we are a flawed form of life, that all carbon-based life is flawed. And they see among the flaws our ability to have deep emotions. That is considered to be to cloud our logic and our thinking. As you mentioned, they see among our flaws that that organs and tissues have the potential to break down and to wear out. And I'm going to use the word potential because it doesn't have to be that way, and we're going to talk about this. They see intimate human relationships as a flaw in terms of our ability to make good decisions, and they see our biology as a limitation in terms of the speed with which we're able to perform calculations in our mind, for example. So these are just examples of what are believed to be flaws by this philosophy that began late 1800s, early 1900s. So the philosophy isn't new. What is new is that we now have the technology to implement much of the thinking underlying the philosophy. And in modern times now, it is being called commonly the transhuman or the transhumanist movement. And the ultimate goal, you just nailed it. The ultimate goal of the transhumanist movement is immortality. And they believe that it's possible to capture human consciousness on a computer chip and preserve that consciousness to download into other life forms, either biological or robotic life forms, indefinitely, and thus creating this sense of immortality. The reason that these are flawed assumptions is because they are based upon the beliefs that I've shared, and the technology. This is where it's so interesting, Steve. The technology that is being touted to replace our biology mimics what we already do in our biology, except we do it better. And that is not acknowledged. That's not acknowledged in this philosophy. Every cell in our body has an electrical potential of about 0.07 volts. Every cell in our body functions as electrical components, as transistors and resistors and capacitors. Every cell in our body transmits light, photons. We receive light and interpret light as information through photons. Every cell in our body has the ability to to store and preserve and recall information just the way the computer chips do that are being offered to replace us. But here's where it gets really, really interesting. And I want to be very clear, and I'm right on with you, Steve. I support technology, and it can be a beautiful thing. What often is overlooked is that we are a technology. We are a soft technology of neurons and ion potentials moving across the cell membranes. We are this soft technology that regulates and repairs itself given the right conditions. So when we begin talking about technology, rarely are we taught that we are literally a highly advanced, highly sophisticated soft technology. This is where it gets really interesting. Are computer chips fast? Absolutely. Can they outcalculate us? Very possibly for right now. But the computer chip is limited in its capabilities by the material it is made of. It has a finite capability based upon the silica or whatever it is that the chips are being made of. So it is not scalable. What we're now discovering about the human body and the human brain, the human immune system, all of these things, is that we are scalable to a degree that we don't even know how far the scalability goes. So, for example, the human brain, it used to be, it wasn't that long ago, back in the 90s, 80s and 90s. It was believed that the human brain could only hold, our neurons could only hold maybe 40 to 80 hertz cycles per second of information. And then they began working with Tibetan monks who were meditating under laboratory conditions. And the monks said, well, if I do this kind of meditation, I can achieve more than that. And so they were able to achieve 80 to 100 cycles per second. And the scientists said, okay, we've got to rewrite the textbooks, but the human brain can't possibly do more than that. And then the monks said, well, if we do a different kind of meditation, and you see where this is going, they eventually pushed the known human brain states. Now we've gone into the gamma brain state, now the hyper gamma brain state. We're talking over 200 cycles per second, and that's not the upper limit. So the point is, we don't know the upper limit. We don't know the full extent of what our potential is. We don't know the full extent of our extraordinary capacities. And for me, Steve, this is the point, because the movement is to replace these aspects of our biology with computer chips, with sensors, with chemicals in our blood, with wires under the skin, with computer chips embedded into the brain. And the drawback, the downside, and the science shows us very clearly, is once we begin to replace our natural biology with artificial technology, our biology begins to atrophy. Neurons fail to perform. They stop functioning in the way they have in the past. Systems in the body, including the immune system, because the work is being done by a chip or by a sensor or by a computer or by a chemical, the body says, oh, I don't need to do that any longer. And so we begin to lose the very capabilities that define our humanness in one generation. And in the next generation, if that continues, if those kinds of technologies are embraced wholesale, recreationally, if every baby that's born has chips implanted into the body, which is on the table as a proposal right now, then we actually begin to shift the definition of our humanness as a species, and we lose the very essence, Steve, of what we cherish as humans before we even have the opportunity to explore fully and to know what it is that we're giving away. So this is my invitation, and I think I can speak for Lynn and Bruce as well. Before we give ourselves away to this technology, I think we need to know what we're giving away, and we cannot do that until we know the full extent of who we are as humans and what our capabilities are. That's the reason that we are doing the work that we're doing. We've put the courses together and we're sharing the information that we're sharing. So So, Stephen, I just want to come back. The technology cannot be good, bad, right, or wrong. It's the thinking underlying the technology. Because those same computer chips that we're talking about now, they can be implanted into the brain of an individual that has lost the use of limbs due to accident or disease, or in war with a roadside bomb with soldiers in Afghanistan or Iraq, coming back from Afghanistan or Iraq. And to be able to connect with the brain to a new prosthetic and give that man or that woman the opportunity to hold their own children in their arms, to brush their own teeth, to comb their own hair, to feed themselves. I mean, what a very, very beautiful thing. Who wouldn't want that? But those are specialized applications. The movement is that we're seeing now in the trend through the media. They are touting these technologies as necessary. They're saying that because we're flawed, we need something outside of us to be healthy and to be successful in life. And that is very, very different than the specialized technology. So again, we're not anti-technology. It's we've got to choose the values and the morality of how we use gene editing, for example. This is part of the technology. The ability to determine the outcome of an embryo by editing the genes in the womb of the mother to determine optimum characteristics. Who decides what is optimum? That's very, very subjective. And when you begin doing that, you are doing something that in the past has been left to nature. And when we begin doing that, there are implications that need to be thought through very, very clearly. So it's complex, it's nuanced, and those complexities, the media, mainstream media, is making this look very sexy and very hip through some very clever marketing campaigns targeted at young people. And they're not being taught about the extraordinary potential of their own bodies. So I just wanted to say that as we go into this conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Well, and there's a lot there. And this is why this is such an important topic. It starts with this false belief that we're flawed somehow. And then, of course, what we can see is a convergence right now where technology is on a hyperbolic curve. And meanwhile, our human capacities and potential, as we understand it and as we embody it, is also on a hyperbolic curve. And they're right there together. And the problem is you're getting crossover now because of false beliefs of, well, maybe I need to be enhancing my body function with technology. So this is why we created a free video series. It's with Gregg Braden, Bruce Lipton, Lynn McTaggart, Humanities team. It's called Smarter, Stronger, Faster. And discover why you don't need technology to leapfrog into all of the fullness of your human capacities and potential. Let's go to a clip here from this video series, and then Gregg and I are going to come back and talk about it.
A part of what makes this possible is we now have computer chips that can be inserted into the human brain and allow the individual to directly interact with the computer hard drive with no wires, no keyboards, and they're making this look very cool for young people. So for a young person, they say, you mean I can do my gaming without a keyboard? Sweet. Who wouldn't want that? Because they have never been taught how precious and how rare and how extraordinary our soft technology is, the power of the human body. So I think what we're doing in this conversation, Steve, we're not telling people to or not to engage. We are giving people a heads up that there is a technological movement that is encouraging us to give ourselves away to the technology. Once we do that, we forever relinquish aspects, very unique aspects, as I mentioned before, empathy, sympathy, compassion, all of these things, they're gone. And once they're gone in one generation, they'll never come back in the next generation. We change as a species. Do we want to give ourselves away to AI and computers in exchange for being logical, for having fast processors in exchange for the very essence of the capabilities that we love and cherish, the emotions of our humanness. And when we encourage our young people to engage more and more in this artificial world, this is what they're losing. And this is where we stand right now. This is the whole purpose of this conversation, is to alert people that these extraordinary potentials that we're only beginning to understand, we don't want to give them away now. We're just beginning to understand this soft technology, the extraordinary potential in this technology.
Okay, so let me just share something now. That screen that you were looking at, it was there on spotlighted on Gregg, and then we could see the wider panel. You could see Lynn McTaggart, Bruce Lipton, and myself. So this is a brand new program, Smarter, Stronger, Faster. We've only unveiled it once here just last week. And beginning this morning, it's available on this watch now or watch later basis. So if you, we'll put on the screen, if you go to the Humanities Team website, humanitiesteam.org, and scroll down, you'll see Smarter, Stronger, Faster, this free video series with Gregg, Bruce, and Lynn. You leave your name and email address and you can register for the series. You can see it on the screen, so you could just go straight to this Smarter, Stronger, Faster page as well. So you can register, and I invite you to register. This is an incredibly important topic. It's a brand new program that we've just created. And Gregg, Bruce, and Lynn just take this topic apart, where we look at this false belief thing about our humanness, and then we talk about these technologies, brain implant that you could see Gregg was bringing in, Metaverse, and other technologies. And then these human capacities and potentials that Gregg, Bruce, and Lynn, they're out on the leading edge of research in terms of talking about what these capacities are, just so we create awareness that, my God, we have these capacities. And then, of course, the important work that we embody those capacities, that we bring those into our lives. So that's what this series is about, Smarter, Stronger, Faster, an important series in today's world for not only for you, but your family, if you've got kids or teenagers, co-workers. So invite you to sign up and go through the program. Just the watch now, when you register, you can watch it immediately if you like, or in the next week you can schedule a time to watch it if there's a more convenient time for you. So Gregg, anything that you want to share about this new series thing that we just created?
Yeah, Steve, well, thank you. This is completely unscripted. I had no idea what video clip you were going to share, and that was the perfect clip, beautiful clip. And for our viewers, just to give some context, that clip you just saw was in relation to the movement into what is called the Metaverse. The Metaverse is a virtual reality, a digital reality, where we're being encouraged to live our lives in this simulated reality. It started as games and very realistic games, but now the technology has progressed, and entire business deals are being conducted. The people involved in the deals will project themselves into an avatar, into the virtual reality. And the avatars walk into the boardroom and they complete the merger and the acquisition, or they complete the business deal. Real estate is being bought and sold in this virtual reality. Human relationships are being encouraged in some societies, and it's happening faster in some societies than others. But intimate human relationships now are beginning to develop among the avatars. And one of the reasons that it is preferable to some people is because it is less messy. You don't have to be involved with the human emotions and the disagreements where people don't see eye to eye, or the different values. You don't have to deal with any of that. So what's happening is this is being encouraged in our young people. And I got to tell you, if you're a 3-year-old, for example, and you wake up in the morning and you have your breakfast and you put on your VR helmet and you are immersed in this world, this intense world of simulated experiences, and the sounds and the colors are so bright and so vibrant. What's happening, Steve, is that technology is taking away the opportunity for our own creativity and our own imagination to create those very kinds of experiences. And this is what the science is showing. So interesting. We now know that we're making new brain cells until the last breath we take on this planet. We used to think, wasn't that long ago, we thought we had a finite number of brain cells. Now we know that's not true. They are created in the hippocampus of the brain, and they are being created until we take our last breath. However, what the peer-reviewed science is showing is when those new brain cells emerge, if they are not engaged in a very precise way within a very specific window of time, they will atrophy and die. And the studies are showing in the experiments when, to do this for once or twice or, once a week isn't going to be the problem. But it's when prolonged experiences in these virtual environments occur, and when they're allowed to occur in vulnerable brains, such as our children, it actually changes the composition of the brain itself, the thickness of the neocortex, the visual cortex. It changes what cells are being engaged. And these are the parts of the brain that help us to develop our very humanness, our sense of sympathy and empathy and compassion, and to have mature emotional relationships where we solve problems together. So this technology has the potential of changing, in one generation, of changing all of these things. So again, Steve, it's a perfect example of where the technology has advanced faster than the morality and the values that we cherish have been identified. People like Elon Musk, who I actually have a lot of respect for. He's wealthy, he's brilliant, he's pushing the boundaries on the one hand, but on the other hand, Elon Musk is at the forefront pleading for regulation with these technologies, because he says if they are not regulated, in his exact words, he says, I'm frightened of where this will lead. And I don't think he says that lightly. So on the one hand, he has companies developing the technology because they have to stay competitive with other countries. And on the other hand, he's saying, yeah, we're doing this, but please, we need somebody to reel this in. We need regulation because this is developing so quickly and of the threat that it poses. So it's a really interesting time, Steve. And for me, the bottom line, we are absolutely not what we have been told in the past. We are so much more than we've been led to believe. And as we awaken this extraordinary potential within us, I think what we begin to find is that the external technology, while it's still there, it looks much less attractive. And we feel less urgency to engage in, a chip in the brain or some of these sensors. We feel less of an urgency to do that because we recognize that they are mimicking what we already do in our bodies anyway, except we do it better when we give ourselves the opportunity to develop these extraordinary capacities. And man, in this crazy world, Steve, I think this is exactly the time. We are all being called to be healthier than we've ever been and to bring the best version of ourselves forward. And our humanness is at the very foundation of all of that. So I wanted to say that in case we run out of time with Q&A or anything else.
Yeah, no, all so important. And I remember, this was like a year ago, Elon Musk was sharing quite openly that if we don't harness, govern, create regulation around artificial intelligence, that we would be treated as house cats. Remember, he was using that term. They're going to just overtake humanity as we know it, and we'll be treated like house cats. That's where we're pointed to if there's no regulation. So it's such an incredibly important topic. Now, also, you were bringing in this notion of stunted growth, and anybody with teenagers, and I have two, knows exactly what you're talking about. So stunted growth that comes in here. And then you're bringing in, the full-on reversal, atrophy. So an atrophy, stunted growth means we're slowing growth. Atrophy is now we're in hard reverse, right? And we're giving up capacities that were there that are going away, and you're saying in a generation it could be permanently. So this is why this is such an important topic. Starting with just the initial premise of, are we flawed? Why are we saying that we're flawed somehow? Let's go instead look at our human capacities and potential and the latest research, the cutting edge research that talks about who we really are. And now that's what this program, Smarter, Stronger, Faster, is about. Gregg Braden, Bruce Lipton, Lynn McTaggart, invite you to go. It's a free program. We just recorded it, only shown it once. And if you go in and register now, you can actually watch it now or in the next several days, schedule a time that's convenient. A very important program. Now, I want to share that that we then work together to create a masterclass that goes down into this much deeper and gets into all of the hows and whys and whats that are involved in terms of embracing these human capacities and potentials, harnessing this, and then growing into the fullness of who we can become. And this masterclass is called Technology, Consciousness, and Evolution. It's an 8-week masterclass. It has 27 modules. So there are 9 modules for Gregg, for Bruce, and for Lynn. Then there are 3 live mentoring programs. So Gregg is with you for 60 minutes, Bruce, Lynn, and every question and comment that's conceivable is coming at them in that hour, where people are talking about what's come out of the modules, their own lives, trying to understand what exactly they might do to create adjustment and course correction based on the material that they're reading. So then there, of course, are the PDFs, the transcripts of the program. There's the Facebook community, private Facebook community, all of these things that are part of the Technology, Consciousness, and Evolution Masterclass. Now, let me just share, it's available on 2 platforms as a standalone masterclass at a very attractive price, and also on Humanity Stream. And Humanity Stream is our revolutionary conscious streaming platform. It's reaching out all over the world into every home. It will into every language. We're just bringing up Spanish now, other languages to follow, every faith tradition, where you've got these best practices, these masterclasses, these transformational education programs, these live mentoring that's available to everybody in the world. And you may know, Humanities Team is a nonprofit 501c3. Okay, so we are not lining our pockets with profit. We're a nonprofit. Over half our organization is not even compensated, and the other half of the organization is lightly compensated. Our whole passion is to serve you, to support you on your conscious journey, which is what Gregg and I are talking about here, and to form a movement to make conscious living pervasive worldwide by 2040. That's in just 18 years. How might we do that? Well, part of how we might do that is where you've got these master classes from Gregg and Bruce and Lynn and Michael Beckwith and Neil Donald Walsh and Thomas Hubel, and there are hundreds of programs. So you've got to go to the Humanity Stream Plus platform to see all of these programs. I invite you to go there. You can go to humanitiesteam.org and just scroll down and click over, or you can go to humanitiesteam.org/stream, and you'll land right on the page. And invite you to go explore then this conscious streaming library that is, you actually can scroll all day if you go into the library. It's that extensive, truly incredible. And this is how Humanities Team as a nonprofit organization this is what we were called to do, is to create a streaming platform like this. Streaming platform means on any device, iPhone, TV, computer, and then with these partners of ours like Gregg that are bringing their masterclasses to the platform so we can extend these classes out to people all over the world. I promise you, where you go through these classes like Technology, Consciousness, and Evolution, you will be a changed person. There's Just this one masterclass alone, technology, consciousness, and evolution, that gets into how we can live into the fullness of our human capacities, is astounding. What this leading research that Gregg and Bruce and Lynn bring in, and it's a case of 1 + 1 + 1 equaling 20. It's why we like to do collaborative teaching. It's also why we like to do the live mentoring, because where you're actually there in a room with them and you can go eyeball to eyeball on camera, it's very powerful in terms of what you get out of it. So we also just brought the price down a second time, just brought it down by $100. So it's about $1 a day for Humanity Stream Plus. The program, this cohort that's going through, which will be huge, is starting in a couple of weeks. People that join Humanity Stream Plus now can delve into the material now. You could actually today start through this masterclass. It starts with Gregg's 9 modules. So check out the Humanity Stream Plus platform. Again, we're a nonprofit. Our only objective is to support you on your conscious journey and the whole of humankind in the world. All of life, actually, the planet itself, animal life, plant life. So invite you to learn more about us if you're just learning about Humanity's team. We call it conscious living. It goes by many names, but where we're living into the fullness of our human capacities and potential, where we're living in connection, where all of these omni words, the guidance and support and all of these things come through, and where we see the sacred, where we look out at life, not just a refrigerator of resources, but no, the sacred, which is life. It's just a whole different way of living. And where we do that together, that's how we create this sustainable, flourishing planet. So the remedy to these challenges that we see in the world, it's literally right under our nose. It's right here. So this is what Humanity's team is all about. Let me come back to Gregg, this program, Technology, Consciousness, and Evolution. You just recorded another module that you added to your 8 that was incredible. Do you want to share a little bit, Gregg?
Well, sure, Steve. Well, first, I just want to step back about a half a step. I want to thank you and Humanity's team and all the people working behind the scenes for making this program and all these programs possible. And it takes a team, to bring this kind of information forward. And I'm so honored to share the virtual stage with dear friends and colleagues like Lynn McTaggart and Bruce Lipton. And, the transhumanists in the early 20th century, what they did not know is what we now call the factor of epigenetics. Epigenetics says that we may be born with one set of parameters in place in our bodies to get us going into the world. And those parameters can be changed through conscious choices that we make in our lives, through changing our environment. Some of the environment can be outside of our bodies, things like diet, exercise, nutrition, supplements. But what the science is showing is one of the most powerful environments that we shift. It's not the world around us, it's the world within us. It is our thoughts, feelings, emotions, beliefs, our loves, our fears, and the chemical responses and the biochemical responses and the genetic responses that we have to those, literally the ability to upregulate or downregulate genes based upon the way that we feel about our relationship to the world. That is a powerful factor that, to the best of our knowledge, Steve, we humans are the only ones that can do this at will, on demand, consciously, when we choose. Now, some animals may do this by instinct, for sure. But we're the only form of life that can sit down in the moment in time and say, in this moment, I choose to create a stronger immune response, or I choose to create more resilience to the crazy world, that's going on out there. I choose to awaken deep states of intuition. I choose to expand my capacity for solving problems, for logic, for creativity, for imagination, for art, for music. No other form of life can do that the way that we do that. And this is the factor that we stand to lose if we replace our biology as the movement proposes with robotics, with artificial intelligence, and with machines. It's the very essence of our humanness, Steve. And this is the whole point. We didn't even know about epigenetics until relatively recently. Now, Bruce Lipton, my dear colleague, my dear friend for over 30 years now, he was experimenting with this in the 1960s. And they didn't have a name for it then. It wasn't called epigenetics until later. He was involved in laying the foundations for these principles. But the point is that we have the ability to rewire our brains, to rewire our immune response, to rewire our cognitive abilities. Every organ in the human body is now documented with the ability to stop disease, to reverse disease, and to heal the organ if it's given the right environment. This is the key. If it's given the right environment, external as well as the internal environment. And Steve, we hear this all the time. We hear about miraculous healings, and the doctors say, it's a miracle. It's a miracle because the epigenetic principles are so poorly understood in some circles. In other circles, they're understood really well. And the beauty of what we're doing in all of this is that we don't have to know the science. We're sharing the science, but we don't have to know the science to benefit. So if you believe in it, it's great. If you don't believe in it, it's still great. If you believe in it, it works. If you don't believe in it, it still works. And that's the beauty of this internal technology that we have at our fingertips. And why I think, Steve, I'm just going to emphasize this, I think we owe it to ourselves to know what it means to be fully human. We owe it to ourselves to be able to embrace that before we give it away in a way that can never be recovered. And that's why I think this is really important.
Yes, and
plus it's fun. It's fun as well.
It is. It is fun. It's exciting. We're out on the frontier. This is cutting edge research we're talking about. So, and what Gregg is covering here is a thumbnail. It's just a thumbnail of all of these capacities and potentials and things that are brought into technology, consciousness, and evolution that allows us to propel or slingshot our growth into the fullness of who we can be. Truly an astounding program. Bruce, as you mentioned, he was a researcher at Stanford with Epigenetics. Lynn McTaggart, you know her intention experiments. All of that leading edge research is brought through in this technology, consciousness, and evolution masterclass. Now, let's go take a quick look at a clip from it. And then there are a bunch of questions that are stacked up. So thank you, viewers, for bringing in questions. And so there's somebody, even Lloyd wants to come on camera. So we're going to come to you all here next after we watch this clip. This is from the masterclass, Technology, Consciousness, and Evolution.
This is digital immortality. The ultimate goal of transhumanism is to live forever. The thinking is that we are flawed as a species and that our bodies are designed to deteriorate over time so that technology can save us. And the thinking is that consciousness is nothing more than a collection of ones and zeros, digital imprints that can be captured and stored on a computer chip, just like you store a program from your word processor on a computer chip. This is the thinking in this transhuman movement. And that thinking, this is where it gets really, really interesting. That thinking now is leading us, it's paving the way for this phase 3 and what now is being called a digital immortality.
Okay, that was just a little thumbnail from this new program, which is quite extensive, that Gregg has. There are 9 of these programs from Gregg, 9 from Bruce, 9 from Lynn. It's a real, I'll tell you, you're going to turn some lights on with this program in terms of who we are and what we can do. And these things that would limit us or stunt our growth or put us in full reverse atrophy, I promise you, you won't go do those things after going through this program. So, Gregg, let's go to some questions here, because I know you even like to do the lightning round to get to these, as many as we can before the hour. So, Lloyd, who's a Humanity Stream Plus member, he's in the stream room. and wanted to come on camera. Lloyd, if you're there, there you are. Hey, Lloyd. Yeah, I know
Hello,
you've
can
got
you
a
hear me?
question for Gregg. We can. We see you too.
Great. Yeah, in my recent experience, it seems like most people have become what I call screen people. In fact, we're all screen people right now, right? We're looking at screens, right? And
Right.
I'm a bit concerned because, I go up to the high school and almost every kid's like looking at their phone, and they're not looking at each other, and they're not paying attention to what's around them. And my own kids spend an enormous amount of time playing video games, and it's starting to feel lonely to me. It feels like there's not really the human interaction that there used to be. And I'm concerned about that. And I'd like to know how we can balance those two things. I'm not saying that tech is bad. It's just there's so much attention on it that there's not as much attention on nature and real life to me. And, how can we balance those two things? There's a lot of great stuff we can do with tech, but it seems like we're missing something now too.
Boy, thank you for that,
well-
Gregg. You're sure talking for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the question, and you're right on. The technology is so new. We've never had a technological revolution. It's not linear. It is literally exponential, what is happening right now. And it is so new that psychologists now are playing catch up. There are new psychological syndromes that are being written about extensively in the peer-reviewed literature, where a family, for example, can be at the dinner table physically in the presence of one another, but each family member is engrossed in their own digital world. So there is this separation and the lack of the intimate emotional conversation and the interaction and the subtle cues that come from that interaction is being lost. So young
Yes,
people
that
now
happens in my family.
Well, what's happening is ultimately the young people are failing to develop the emotional skills that help them to navigate successfully in their lives. And one of the places, intimate human relationships pushes the boundaries on everything, including this. So one of the places where this is happening, if two people are in a relationship and one of them wants to end it, more often than not, in a certain age group, it's done with a few words or a brief phrase in a text, and then it's over, rather than looking eye to eye at another person and sharing and experiencing what it means to have the completion for that relationship. But all of this comes back, Steve. It's what we alluded to earlier. If you're the 3-year-old and you're in that immersive reality, that metaverse that is now being touted as where we're all going, the natural world pales in comparison to the vibrant colors and the extreme sounds and the extreme situations that are done for you. And there is less of an interest for those young people then to take that helmet off and go for a walk in nature, because everything is so intense. It's about the intensity of the experience, kicking up the dopamine, kicking up the serotonin, and all of the chemicals in the body, including the adrenaline, and all of those things, and then going into the natural world without that. So what we are doing now is creating an awareness of this. And there are scientists that are asking for regulation, and parents have to become aware. It's a new technology. It's not good, bad, right, or wrong, but we have to choose how it can serve us in our lives rather than allow us to become enslaved to this technology and give ourselves away. It's a good question.
Yeah, Lloyd, thank you for the question.
Yeah, I feel like people are giving themselves away, and it's concerning to me. I'm a musician like you, and I'm actually starting to work on this song called Screen People. And the lyrics are kind of challenging because I don't want to offend everybody. But
yeah, no, thank you, Lloyd. And we'll just thank you for also just coming on camera here. Would want to get to a few other people here before the hour is out.
I'd like to say one more thing. One thing to me that does is the big attraction in nature and the real world is physical touching. when people really touch each other or massage each other in a healthy way, that to me, that's like.
Yeah. Oh, cut out there, but amen to that. Healthy touching. Wow. Huh, Greg?
Well, this is part of it, Steve. The very experiences that we cherish as humans, touch, eye-to-eye contact, emotions, value judgments, discernment, all of those things are viewed as inefficient in the transhumanist movement. And so if we could go to AI, if we could go to computer chips, we become much more efficient. And the question is, do we want to sacrifice our most cherished values for efficiency? And that's a question that we have to answer as a society. But the thing is, the tech is being rolled out before we have that conversation. And it's being adopted before we have that conversation. And that's why I think this conversation is really important.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah. And efficiency dealing with people isn't good. Effectiveness, not efficiency. Yeah. So, which is what you're bringing in with Len and Bruce in the most powerful way here in these series, starting with Smarter, Stronger, Faster, the free series, and then for the people that want to go deeper, that really want to embody these teachings, we go down into the masterclass Technology, Consciousness, and Evolution. Let me bring in this question from Linda. She says, how do we account for the current fault lines humans are inflicting upon our world, environment, Ukraine?
Well, what you're seeing, Steve, well, first, Linda, it's a very good question. Thank you for the question. What you are seeing, what you're calling the fault lines, you are seeing this conversation that we're having right now play out on the world stage in ways that are not often recognized, because there is a movement. It's not a secret. It's called the Great Reset. The Great Reset is a vision by a relatively small number of people, World Economic Forum, using the United Nations and the Sustainable Development Goals to implement what are called Sustainable Development Goals, to implement these ideas. And you're seeing this play out across the financial world. You're seeing it play out in society. You're seeing it play out in terms of the story that we are taught about who we are, where we come from, what is our origin, our true origin, what are our capabilities, what are our potentials, what does it take to stay healthy, what does it take to get healthy, what do our children need. As different as these are from one another, they are all under the umbrella of the vision for the Great Reset. And you're seeing these ideas playing out between now and the year 2030. They're trying to complete this transition by the year 2030. And when you begin to recognize the role, and especially in the global financial system, you're seeing this play out as well. It's beyond the scope of what we can talk about here. But what you begin to see is how great the desire is by a relatively few number of people to remake the world in a way that they believe is a good thing, and it's at the cost, a very high cost, and that cost is our humanness. And this is what I am very passionate about, because we don't even know with certainty the full extent of what it means to be human, what our full capability. We're only beginning to understand these capabilities. We don't want to give them away now. It's just getting really good. We're beginning to understand that we're not victims of an external environment, and that the technology that Steve mentioned, that he and I were in Silicon Valley at the same time. I'm just going to say this. I've worked in high tech in the industry, Fortune 500 companies, before I left to begin doing this full time. I have never seen any technology built in a laboratory that doesn't mimic a principle that we already have inside of our bodies. This goes from lasers and radar to communication, to the internet, to virtual reality. All of this, it is mirroring what we are. And so I believe that through the external technology, we are asking ourselves to remember the deep truth of who we are, so that the technology can become a tool for our awakening rather than a crutch that we use as we move forward in life? So it's a really good question, but check out the Great Reset if you haven't already, and you'll see the elements of what we're talking about are playing out in that Great Reset.
Yes, let me bring in, so on the Humanities Stream Plus platform, we have Gregg's 3 masterclasses. So during this program, we're talking about technology, consciousness, and evolution, just a gold mine unto itself. But we're now, as we're talking, branching out into other topics. The program that Gregg just created late last year, just months ago, with Nassim Haramein, who has this unified field theory that's just on the verge of coming out. It was called Forbidden Science, which gets into some of these other things we're just starting to explore here. These are my words, not Gregg's or Nassim's, but I worked closely with them for about 6 months. And what I get out of Forbidden Science is that we are, sovereignty is a word that's usually used with like a state that's sovereign or a country that's sovereign. But what I got out of the masterclass is that we're actually sovereign to a universe, which means sovereign means we're owned by it. We are part of it. Our DNA and genetics are actually made of it. So we're actually made to come into the fullness of our capacities. We're made to be in service to life around us. That's the biggest thing actually I get out of Forbidden Science. It's astonishing, this program. If you do end up subscribing to Humanities Stream Plus, be sure after Technology, Consciousness, and Evolution to go through Forbidden Science. And then the program Gregg created before that is called The Science of Self-Empowerment, which is with Bruce Lipton and then heart math leaders, Deborah Rosman, Howard Martin, another one just fabulous on the topic of becoming self-empowered, what all of the latest research is in that. So all 3 programs are on the Humanities Stream Plus platform. I didn't mention earlier too that if you register by midnight tomorrow night, Pacific time, that there's a program that Gregg is doing. It's on, I believe, April 26th. It starts at 5 p.m. Pacific. We call it a virtual fireside chat. So this is for Technology, Consciousness, and Evolution. And he comes in live with you live on camera to just talk about how you can get all of the maximum out of this 8-week program, the cohort that's going through during an 8-week period. So check out the platform here before midnight tomorrow night, because that might be something you might be interested in. We only have about 3 minutes left, Gregg. So,
yeah, Steve, we're covering a lot of ground, and I think it's good because it becomes clear that everything is connected. The events unfolding in our lives real time that are difficult to talk about, we can't discount those. It's part of our experience. But I think all of this is the invitation for us to become absolutely the best version of ourselves so that we can create the best world possible. The world that we create outside of us is a direct reflection of what we think and how we feel about who we are. And if we feel that we are limited and flawed beings, we're going to create a world that tries to compensate for that. And when we recognize that we're these extraordinary beings of soft technology with this unique capacity for empathy and sympathy and compassion and the ability to self-regulate our bodies, and we begin to build a society based upon that. That's a very different vision than what's coming down from some of these other groups and organizations. And Steve, I honestly believe it's because they do not know what we're talking about. They don't know about this extraordinary capacity of our humanness, what it really means to be human. So all of this, yes, it's all connected. And I acknowledge that. I prefer to focus on the potential that we are now embracing within ourselves as individuals and communities, and breathing life into those potentials in life-affirming ways for ourselves and for our children. Buckminster Fuller said this beautifully. He said, "You're never going to change the world by fighting against the things you don't like." Now, I know there's sometimes you do have to fight, and we know what that's all about. But he said, typically, if you want a new world, find a new way that makes the old way obsolete. find a new way, a new model that works better than what has been done in the past, and people will follow the new model and the old model falls away. And I think in large extent, that is precisely what's happening here. When we focus upon ourselves and our own extraordinary potential, that becomes the way that we choose to do things. And I think it's a beautiful invitation for all of us, again, to become the best version of ourselves. So thank you for the opportunity to share some of this today, Steve. I appreciate it.
Oh gosh, Gregg, yeah, thank you. Yeah, become sometimes the grandest version of the greatest vision that we've ever had about ourselves. So fantastic. I mean, this is what we all want, isn't it? And when we rise into our higher capacities, all of these things that Gregg is talking about, we come into the fullness of what the term we use in Humanities Team is conscious living, where and in conscious living, we understand the full definition, the true definition of what prosperity and fruitful living is. Prosperity beyond, yes, that includes a financial dimension, but so much more in our relationships, in how we view the world, and how we become in service to the world. All of these things actually naturally happen when we go through this process of understanding who we are, and then we climb that ladder into the fullness of that potential. We become conscious, we live consciously. And then when we do that all together, this remedy that is right under our nose when we look at these challenges out in the world, climate change and humanitarian crisis and war, etc. Well, guess what? None of those things can be any longer when we're conscious. We simply can't support these things when we're conscious. So this is the thing. This is what we're passionate about in Humanities Team, supporting you on your conscious journey, and then creating a movement that makes conscious living pervasive worldwide by 2040, which means that we're all doing this all over the world. We see that happening in the next 18 years. There actually are steps into that. Gregg and I were talking before the program. The UN Development Goals say by 2030 there's a lot accomplished. But this is where we want to pay attention. This is where we can make this shift. We can make this huge step in this direction that we all want, instead of just the silliness that goes on out in the world today. I think we're all probably would say we've had enough of that. Surely there's a better way, and there is. So hey, let's do it together. Thank you, Gregg, Bruce, and Lynn, for creating the tool of Smarter, Stronger, Faster, creating technology, consciousness, and evolution, forbidden science, the science of self-empowerment. Gregg is doing his part. He's putting all of this leading edge research out in the world. And I promise you, you go through these programs and you're going to be a changed person. There's just too much leading edge research that can't be ignored. So, hey, thank you all. Thank you, viewers, for being here. Lloyd coming on camera, all of others that were bringing in questions. Thank you, Gregg. Thank you for making the time to be with us. I want to thank your assistant, Lori, Anna, your team that comes in and works with us. Actually, I think Anna's with Bruce Lipton's team. And then our team will pull the camera back and you can see Jim Gray, who's in the studio here with me live. There's Jim over there, me here. Okay, thank you, Jim. He made this whole thing smooth. Karen Gordon's writing team has been creating all the communications that have been going out. Karen, thank you. And then Nanette Kennedy, Dee Meyer, Garth Catterall, the rest of other members of my team. Thank you, my colleagues and partners. So, hey, everybody, here's the thing. Together we can. We can and we are. Right, Gregg? We can and we are.
Yeah. Absolutely, Steve. And it's happening right now. This isn't 10 years down the road. This is right now. And I can't think of a better time for us to come together as a community and become the best version of ourselves. So thank you all for making that possible.
Yeah, let's do it. We are doing it. So we'll be back with you here again soon. We're actually going to a Wednesday format, viewers. So we've been Fridays. We're going to a Wednesday format here shortly with programs like this. This amazing special guest, Gregg Braden, and this topic, redefining what it is to be human. I mean, is that an important topic or what? So thanks again, and we'll be back with you guys soon. Have a fabulous weekend, everybody. Love and peace and blessings.